come forward. And let's fill up the 3 seats in the front and people can start lining up so we can try to expedite this process. Thank you very much. First speaker, ma'am. Oh, hold on, go ahead, ma'am. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Susanna Keith, and I started Count Our Votes California when I saw a lot of the problems that were happening in other states. And I came to express some of the concerns I had. And I was very fortunate that Dean Logan and Brian Steger both were trying to help me rectify some of the problems. Unfortunately, there were still plenty of problems on election day, and we have a room full of people, if they could stand up, that have had experiences either as poll workers or poll inspectors, as well as concerned voters that had real issues. And we have some requests after you hear all their testimonies. One is to count ballots faster because there's a looming state delegate deadline, and have an independent investigation of how some of these shifts have happened in their registration.
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker.
Yes, good morning. My name is Carlos Marroquin. First of all, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to be here and speak to you regarding this very important issue. I'd like to commend Mr. Dean Logan for his work. I know that it's a large undertaking that this takes, and it's been very hard, frustrating for many of us. We did come to sound the alarm about a month before the elections of the issues that we already had uncovered that were being presented, including people being dropped from the rolls that have been long-time voters. And even on election day, they still couldn't find their names, and they're very frustrating. I am an organizer with the Bernie Sanders Brigade. I do represent a lot of voters that they feel that they were cheated in many different ways, whether it was purposely or not. That's something that needs to be discovered. But we do have concerns, and those concerns need to be addressed all the way from the top. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
And good morning, my name is Gina Harris, and I was a poll inspector, and I was one person at my precinct where my machine did break rather early on, and it was not replaced, despite my precinct coordinator telling me she would have to go from Westchester to Norwalk and back out again, which was virtually impossible during a busy Tuesday with LA traffic. And we also had, one thing I wanted to point out, I had a lot of new immigrants who came to vote who I had to give provisional ballots because they were not on the roster. So could you imagine the Kenyan friend we just had here recently coming in here thinking he's about to vote, he loves our country and cannot. I literally saw people break down to tears because they were ready to take pictures of them voting, and I had to hand them this pretty little pink envelope saying your vote won't count today and I'm really sorry. So that's a problem. I would just really encourage you guys to quickly move through this, trying to get a better voting system. With us having the largest, in the country, I think that we need to set precedent for this entire country being the best voting system. Thank you.
Next speaker.
My name is Wendy O'Terry. I'm not a new voter. I'm not an experienced voter. I'm not a first-time voter. Yes, I was listed wrong in the registrar. I had my card from the county registrar's office. I was told I needed a provisional ballot. I proved my party affiliation, demanded the correct ballot. My name was, party affiliation in the rolls was crossed out. There was no supplemental register at my polling place. I voted with my party affiliation, and I don't think this ever should have occurred. I think there was plenty of time to computerize, to get real-time voting. We knew the problems that were going to occur this year. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker.
My name is Julie Levine. I was a poll worker at Coldwell Banker in Topanga. Of 230 voters, close to a half of them had to vote provisionally. We had all of the problems indicated. We did not receive our supplemental rosters, so those people had to vote provisionally. Many people were listed erroneously as vote by mail and therefore could not surrender their ballots, also forced to vote provisionally. Many were switched. They claim against their what they asked for, from Democrat primarily to American Independent, and a few to Peace and Freedom Party. We also had a jammed machine. As a result, we had many bent and damaged ballots. And we did run out of Democratic ballots, and many, many people were forced to vote with emergency ballots. I want to conclude by saying that with all of these new voters, if we truly are concerned about continuing, as Supervisor Greuel has indicated, about keeping these people engaged, we need to address these problems now. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, we have several other speakers. Paul McKichan, Catherine Kana, Steve Stokes, Naomi Tunji, Jason Shackell. Please state your name for the record.
Hello, hi. My name is Paul McKichan. I served as a clerk in Precinct 104-0017A in Castaic. Both my poll inspector and I were fully trained, but our location was insufficiently staffed. Both my poll inspector and I found out we were confirmed to serve just 1 week before the election. When the polls opened at 7 a.m., it was just the two of us on site. And I single-handedly played the role of roster clerk, street index clerk, and ballot clerk, but that's not why I'm here. I believe many of the issues brought forward to you today could have been prevented had the instructional training documentation been thorough and quality controlled. Had these documents actually been QC'd and QA'd against the actual poll working experience, it would be crystal clear that many open looming questions could have been addressed and show-stopping situations averted, such as the erroneous issuance of provisional ballots to valid crossover-friendly no-party preference voters, complete lack of instructions on how to close out the ballot recorder at the end of the night, and the unnecessary taxpayer expense of cell phones better suited for the TV show Homeland that delivered passwords to the ballot machines.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Good afternoon. My name is Catherine Canna, and I served as an inspector at the Mark Twain Middle School in Venice. And I had several issues that day. The first one was that I didn't receive supplemental blue pages to update my roster. Even though we were told at the training that that would happen, that did not happen. Therefore, we had to issue many provisional ballots. Secondly, I had been assigned 2 poll workers. I contacted them the night before. One wasn't unreachable, the second one was reachable, but an hour later she told me she was reassigned to a different precinct, which forced me to work alone, set up the station alone, which caused delays, and therefore my poll was not actively at 7 a.m. Therefore, I had to issue provisional ballots for the voters, many of whom were very upset. We had a password missing for the ballot box. Nobody was issued a password on time. We didn't even know about it, that it was going to have a password needed. This also caused delays in the use and therefore forced us to use provisional ballots. Mail-in ballots. People came in without, and myself as well, I had to vote provisionally because mail-in ballots were not issued on time.
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker.
My name is Steve Stokes. I re-registered as a Democrat in February of 2016 in order to run for U.S. Senate. At my polling place on June 7th, my status was still listed as no party preference. Additionally, I was listed as vote by mail, although I have never before voted by mail and do not believe that I requested this change. I was offered a provisional ballot, which I declined. The younger female poll worker offered a provisional ballot, stated that many of the voters that day had complained of being in vote-by-mail status without requesting it. I called a number at the county recorder's office provided by the older male poll worker. The worker on the phone in Norwalk offered to check my status by mail and confirmed that indeed it was vote-by-mail. When I expressed that I had not requested to be vote-by-mail, she stated that many people were changed to vote-by-mail status to avoid an expected crush of high voter turnout. Recognizing that the situation described was irregular and illegal, I asked if she would be willing to restate that and what she was telling me for the media. She said that she would and gave me her name. And during this conversation, the poll inspector had arrived and at one point interceded and held my telephone. At the point when the worker stated this, my phone was on speakerphone and the poll inspector overheard this statement. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker.
Hello, my name is Noemi Tungui. I'm an LGBTQ Latina immigrant. I became a citizen in order to be able to vote for this election, and I was so excited that I led volunteers to canvass in Nevada, Arizona, and California. In Arizona, I went to Maricopa County on the day of the election, where I witnessed voter suppression up until midnight, where we handed out water and snacks. I hear that happens frequently, but yet nobody really speaks about all these voter issues. So while I'm glad to hear that you guys will work for it for the next election, I want to know what will happen with this election, as well as I canvassed up to the very last minute, and I still had numerous phone calls and emails from friends who were panicking because their registration had switched. So I just want answers.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hi, my name is Jason Shadwald, and I'm a delegate-elect for District 27, that's Judy Chu's district. And, well, first of all, I did really appreciate the presentation by Registrar Dean Logan, and I appreciated comments and questions by Supervisor Keeuel. Thank you very much for that. You're going to hear a lot of stories today about things that went wrong. I want to talk about things that we could do better, like outreach to new and young voters through social media, for example. You've got a lot of things out there that, snail mail, through television ads, which are quite expensive, I've heard. And then the website, quite good, not up to par with modern social media. So I think if you did more for Twitter, Facebook, that type of thing, that would